Hello. Happy Wednesday, everybody. How y'all doing? So, for anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Lindsey Hall, and I'm an intimacy and empowerment coach. And what that means for me is that I love to help women and men, but I work mainly with women, deepen their intimacy with themselves and with others, really own their pleasure and their power, and help you live a joyful life that you absolutely love. I sometimes sum it up as helping people live their best life, which, super cheesy, but also kind of the point. So real. So I come on every week and I do these live Instagrams and then I post them on YouTube later where I talk about what's been going on in the past week, stuff that's come up, themes, a week in the life of an intimacy coach, like whatever it is, just life chit chat about stuff. And then the second half, I answer your questions that you guys send me. And if you want to see all of them, they're all on my Instagram or YouTube at Lindsey Hall Coaches. And for this week, I want to talk about boundaries. Boundaries has come up over and over in lots of different ways in the last week. Some in my personal experience, some in chatting to other people, whether it's with clients or friends or just, random acquaintances. So, seemed a good thing to talk about. And also, it's been a while since I've talked about it on here, and they are extremely, extremely important. So, boundaries are, to be super clear, boundaries are things that you will or will not do or put up with, or actions that you will take. So, we cannot control anybody else, and as annoying as that is, and trust me, I get it, it's freaking annoying because I've spent a lot of my adult life, in fact, I'm the oldest sister, so I spent a lot of my childhood as well trying to control other people and trying to get people to do what I want. And it's been entirely futile. And I'm guessing that you can relate to this because you've probably spent a lot of time trying to get other people to do what you want. And just like telling people what to do doesn't work, does it? Telling people what to do is rarely very effective. But particularly when it comes to our intimate relationships. And by intimate relationships, I don't just mean romantic partnerships, that as well, but I also mean like family or friends or even work colleagues, anybody you've got a relationship with. We don't usually like being told what to do we? Like, think about it. If somebody tells you, you need to do that, you should stop doing that, you should start doing this, keep doing that, do more of that. Like, be honest. My reaction to that is like, I don't wanna. You can't make me. You can't tell me what to do. And that is the same for most of us. And it's the truth. You can't tell somebody else what to do. I mean, you can tell them. Absolutely. You can tell them until you're blue in the face. But you can't, you don't get to control other people. You can tell them, it doesn't mean they're going to do it. What you can control is you and your actions and your words. You can't even really, I was going to say your thoughts, but actually, yes and no. So I don't know the right words to say to articulate that clearly, but our thoughts just come and go as well. And our feelings come and go. And although we have, there's loads, I do lots of mindset work for myself and with my clients, lots of learning how to feel our feelings and hold the feelings, but you don't get to, there is only so much control over you have for your thoughts. More of that comes in noticing the thoughts and choosing what you pay attention to, what you act on, and letting the other ones drift on by, or doing conscious work to try and change some of your thoughts. But that was a long-winded tangent to say that actually, so yes, you have control over your thoughts to some extent, but what you do have control over definitely are your words and your actions that you take. So back to the boundaries. That is where boundaries come into play. Boundaries are things that you get to decide what you're going to do. So rather than saying to somebody, you can't do this, a boundary, because that's not a boundary, stop showing up at my house without calling me first. Well, that's not a boundary. The boundary is, if you show up at my house and you haven't called first, I'm not going to answer the door. Or, if you show up at my house and unannounced and it's not a good time, I'm going to tell you that it's not a good time rather than having you come in. So that's something that you're going to do. That person may or may not keep showing up at your door unannounced. And I'm not sure why I'm using that as the example, because that's pretty rare. People don't usually just show up at our doors anymore these days, do they? But so let me turn it into some real life examples that have come up this week. So an example that came up this week is somebody wanting some. There was a couple, well, an ex-couple who used to be in a relationship. They have a child together, so there's an ongoing, continuing co-parenting relationship there, but they are no longer in a romantic relationship together. One person has a lot of credit card debt. The other person has a lot of cash laying around and has offered to use that cash to pay off the credit card debt in exchange for a lower a lower interest rate. But in that arrangement they're talking about, the person with the extra cash who is going to make that pay down the credit card debt is trying to include, and you can't ever get any more credit card debt. You can't ever let yourself get into a position where you take out lots of debt again. That is, and okay, so there's, you can put stuff like that into contracts. So of course, within contracts, you can tell people what to do. But the question here was in terms of their ongoing relationship, and that the person with the credit card debt saying, hang on, that you can't tell me what to do. That's, you get to decide what's happening in our current financial arrangement. You get to decide, and while we are agreeing together, the financial terms of our current financial transaction that we are doing together. But future things are unrelated to this transaction. And so that's one where we talked about boundaries in terms of the person who has the money doesn't get to be saying, setting a boundary isn't, you don't get to rack up any more credit card debt. The boundary there is, if you rack up more credit card debt, I'm not going to put my money towards it again. I'm not going to do this transaction again. This is a one-time offer. That is a boundary. That is saying what they are willing or not willing to do with their money if the other person takes this action. The other person can rack up credit card debt or not, or do whatever, and they know what the results of that will be. They know what the consequence will be, but they still get to do what they want, and this person has made it clear what they will or will not do in that situation. So that is setting a boundary in place. Another example is like when it comes to drinking booze. Telling somebody you can't drink anymore, not a boundary, not really very helpful in relationships, telling somebody what to do, but saying, if you drink and get, and you get to, when setting a boundary, the boundary could be, if you have any alcoholic drinks, I will not be going out with you that night. Or if you call me drunk, I'm going to hang up the phone. Or if you get drunk and speak to me in that, say abusive things to me, I'm going to hang up the phone. Or, and it can go as far as, I'm not willing to be in a relationship with somebody who gets drunk and uses abusive language towards me. If you do that, I will end the relationship. Those are the kinds of things that are boundaries, as opposed to, you shouldn't go out and get drunk. Don't get drunk. Don't drink. That's telling somebody what to do, which isn't effective, versus a boundary, which is, that's the bit that you can control. You can't control whether they drink or not, but you can control what you do if that happens. So I hope that's clear in terms of what the differences there are. And this can come up in all kinds of relationships, and so it can come up at work too. So another example that came up this week was somebody saying how they work with a company in a different time zone and have negotiated in their contract when setting up this work that they were only going to be doing the other time zone 2 days a week, because the other time zone meant much earlier working hours. So they'd agreed, we'll do UK time for 3 days a week and your time for 2 days a week. And actually what's turned out over time is that it leaks. And this is so often the case. So I'm gonna give one more example, and then I'm gonna talk about maintaining boundaries. So first this bit is about the setting of the boundaries, and then I'm gonna talk about communicating and maintaining those. But so So it leaks. They had agreed what they thought was going to be the plan, 2 days a week on your time zone, 3 on mine. Now it's leaked over time, so meetings keep going in the diaries for earlier and earlier in the morning, UK time, and feeling like, hang on, this isn't what I agreed to. So rather than saying, stop putting meetings in my diary at 6 o'clock in the morning, that's telling them what to do, and you can't control that. They can go ahead and put in whatever meetings they want whenever they want. They're going to send those invites. And now, that's not to say don't have that conversation. You can absolutely say, like we had talked about that, and I would appreciate if you didn't put the meetings in. But the thing that you can control isn't whether or not meeting invites show up at 6 a.m. The part that you can control is saying very clearly, I'm not going to take meetings at 6 o'clock in the morning unless it's on the 2 agreed days that we'd agreed. I will only accept meetings that happen at 8 a.m. or later, or 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. or whatever it may be. But you can say, listen, this is what we had agreed on when we negotiated my contract. I'm not going to accept meetings that happen before that. If these meetings are important and you need me to be at them, because I fully understand how, in this working relationship that the point is that we need to be working together. So if it's important for me to be on this call, I will only accept it if it is at 8 a.m. or later. That is clearly setting your boundary and then communicating it. So when it comes to communicating boundaries, it's telling somebody, the other party, like, if this happens, this is what I'm going to do. So there was the ones I've given where I'm going to, hang up the phone or not answer the door or end the conversation, or what else have I used? Or, not give more money if you get more credit card debt, or not accept the meeting. Those are things that I can control as the one who is setting the boundary. Then when it comes to maintaining, so communicating that is really helpful, so the other party knows what to expect too. Then maintaining is the trickier part. So it's hard enough sometimes to set that boundary because we feel like, what are they going to think? Like, is it, am I going to get in trouble? Are they going to get mad at me? Like, what? But then the communicating it and then the maintaining it. And sometimes we slip. But the important thing is to have compassion for yourself. But just because you slip once doesn't mean you can't then maintain it the next time. So if you accept that meeting at 6 a.m. and you go, oh, damn it, now they think I'm going to keep taking meetings at 6 o'clock in the morning, even though I told them I didn't want to. But, here we are letting it slip again. You can always go back and say, listen, I know I said I wasn't going to take meetings at that time of day. I made an exception for that one, but let me reiterate the fact that I am not going to take meetings. I'm not going to accept meetings that happen that time of day again. Or, listen, I know that I said that if you, had any drinks, I wasn't going to go on our date that night. You'd had a glass of wine, we went and had the date anyway, but that let me reiterate my position here. But then the important thing as well is it is on you to maintain it. So we often can find ourselves getting mad at other people for breaking our boundaries. Like, I set this boundary and they're ignoring it and they keep breaking it. Nobody else can break our boundaries. We are the only ones who can break those because they are actions that we are taking or not taking, etc. So somebody else can come knocking on that door unannounced as much as they want, or sending as many meeting invites as they want, or drinking as much as they want, or, the financial, I don't have a good example for that one. But do you see what I mean? Like, the other person can do what they want and keep banging on that door, but we are the ones who let the boundaries be broken or not. So it is on you to maintain that boundary. Like I said, if you slip up, you can just go back to it. But if you keep letting it slide, that is on you, not on them. And so really, I strongly advocate not setting boundaries that you aren't willing to follow through on. It's the same when it comes to parenting, like telling your kid, if you do that again, if you throw that stick one more time, we're going to leave the park. If you don't leave the park, if you let them keep throwing the stick and you're like, we're going to go home, we're going to leave. Like, your kid's like, whatever, dude, I'm not listening to you because clearly you're not leaving the park. So they're going to keep doing the thing because you have not followed through. It's the same when it comes to grown-up relationships and setting these boundaries. If you just say it all the time but don't follow through, people are going to be your boundary's going to be ignored. You've got to maintain it and follow through on the thing that you say you're going to do or not do in order for it to be listened to. And you just keep doing that consistently over and over. And that is what builds the trust. Both their trust that you're going to maintain that, but more importantly, it builds your trust of yourself, that you then trust that, like, hey, I said this thing and I followed through on it. Like, I can do this. I can stand up for myself. I can put my boundaries in place. I can protect my peace, because ultimately that's what boundaries are for. Boundaries are there to protect our peace, because nobody else is protecting our peace. That is for us to do. Sorry, I'm on a roll. I'm thirsty. So nobody else is going to protect our peace except for us, and that is your job to do. And like I said, the more you maintain it, the more you build that trust in yourself, and you're like, I really do got me. I'll come off my boundary soapbox now, shall I? I honestly could talk about boundaries all day, every day. And that is not to say I'm an expert at them. They still sometimes scare me. It still can be hard for me to put them up, especially the scary ones. Like, I can stand here all day, every day and be like, I wouldn't put up with that behavior. Like, I wouldn't do that. And some, I absolutely have that trust in myself. I'm like, no, that I would not put up with that. Now there's other stuff where I'm big talking, and then it comes time to, I had my best friend questioning me on this week, saying, have you put the boundary in place? No. Well, is this okay with you? No. Well, are you gonna put this boundary in place? I don't know. Why not? Because then I'd have to follow through on it. And I don't want to follow through on it. Yeah, but is this okay with you? No, it's not okay with me. So then you have to follow through. Oh, but I don't want to follow through. But you're right. That kind of thing happens in my life still. So I am not perfect at this. But the good news is I had her to bounce it off of, and we went back and forth, and I got to the point where I was like, okay, you're right. Although the idea of putting this boundary in place is scary, and I do not want to follow through on it. But equally, what is currently happening is not okay with me. And the thought of carrying that on is worse, actually. In order to respect myself and to really honor myself and my needs, I can't let this thing keep happening. I have to put the boundary in place, and I have to be willing to follow through on it, because I'm not willing to sacrifice myself in order to get the other thing that I really want, but I can't sacrifice myself for it. And that can apply to basically all of this stuff. That is the underlying part of all of it. Of if there is stuff that you don't like happening, you have to put the boundary in place and follow through and maintain that in yourself, because do not sacrifice yourself for somebody else, even if it's really hard. And it is. Find yourself a best friend or a coach or a mentor or somebody, me, to help you figure out what the boundary is, to help you stick with maintaining it. And that is absolutely crucial. Okay, I said I was coming off the boundary soapbox, and then I kept talking. So I've got one question. Oh, and I talked for a long time today, didn't I? I will try and do this one quickly. Although this one is actually less of a question that I had through and more of a statement but I'm still going to address the statement. The statement that I had this week that came through was, I just feel like all men are horrible and I never want to date again. And this is coming from somebody who is still pretty fresh in their separation divorce process. And so obviously, if you follow me on social media, you'll have seen I've been talking about dating after divorce lately. I've got my dating after divorce program coming up. So that the response I had back was, I think men are horrible and I never want to date again. And so let me talk about that. And I am smiling / gently laughing in the most gentle way here, because I totally get that feeling, love. I understand where you're coming from, and it will pass. There's, I know that is so frustrating and annoying to hear, and that's not my whole answer, okay? It's not like, he'll get over it. Be a pretty terrible coach if that was my whole answer, wasn't it? You'll move on. But that's the short answer, the summarized version. The slightly longer version is, yeah, divorce sucks. It does a number on us. And as always, when I talk about divorce, I also mean separation, breakup from a long-term partnership, etc. The legal status doesn't mean anything to me. I'm talking about the emotional process of all of it. But it sucks. It does a number on us. It beats up our heart. We are often left questioning ourselves, questioning relationships in general, questioning our partners, questioning the things that we thought we knew to be true about relationships, about love. And it can leave us being like, no, never again. Absolutely fuck off. Like, that was awful and I'm not doing it again. And it can be so easy to generalize. So, if you were a woman who was married to a man and now you think that all men suck. And we'll say that that version in our head, that story gets perpetuated because we then start hearing about other people's divorce stories and, often, so I know for me at the time, so my ex cheated on me and then that was the story that came flooding in with all of these other men who had cheated on their wives. So it can be very easy to be like, see, all men suck. They're awful. They all cheat. Yeah, and I just need to say it's not true. And the best thing you can do is to block out everybody else's stories in that sense and look at what is true for you and your relationship and take it down. So rather than going, oh, all men suck and they all cheat, because not all men do cheat. And also women cheat too. And also, and in big, bold capital letters, cheating doesn't make you a bad person. Okay? So let me say that again loud and clear. Cheating doesn't make you a bad person. Whether you were the one cheating or being cheated on, it is a horrible, sucky thing, usually for both people, actually. But it doesn't make you a bad person. So all of that is to say that, it can be easy to generalize. It can be easy to go, oh, I'm suddenly hearing all these stories that back up my perspective. That is confirmation bias. That is a real thing where we just pull in the evidence that supports the story that we want to hear, confirms our position on it. And that doesn't mean it's the actual truth. That means it's your brain's way of going, that really hurt. I don't want to get hurt like that again. What can I do to protect myself from that kind of hurt? What can I do to protect myself? I can put up the walls. I can put up the shields and say, nope, not letting people into this bubble. This is my bubble. I am safe in here. Nobody's going to penetrate this to get into my heart again, because if I let you into my heart, you might break it, and I'm not having that again. And that is when you are feeling beaten up and bloodied and bruised and like your heart is just, splayed open and you're like, oh, this is awful. And like I said, questioning yourself and your marriage and your relationship and all of the things. But at that point, that is not the time to be diving into another relationship anyway. That is the time to let your heart heal, to let those wounds heal. And I don't just mean let them heal passively. I mean do the healing work on them, to actively heal those wounds, heal your heart, look at your stuff, look at your relationship stuff, start to pick out what was, where does responsibility for the relationship falling apart lie? And I don't mean that in terms of like, it was your fault or it was all my fault. But we, in relationships, there's all kinds of factors going on. And it is very, very rarely just one person's actions or, fault. Relationships fall apart because of relationship issues. And understanding that and being able to unpick that is really, really important. And almost always the answer is there were cracks in the relationship. Those cracks got bigger and bigger. One person might have had more to do with it than the other. One person might have been trying harder than the other, but ultimately the relationship didn't work. And really going into that and just investigating it can be super, super helpful. And then doing that healing work and coming to a place where you can really come back in and love yourself, swamping yourself with love so much, letting your heart heal, doing that healing work actively, and then coming to a place where it's like, okay, I am ready to risk connection again. I am ready to be vulnerable, open up my heart, put down the walls, open up my heart, invite somebody in, knowing that I could get hurt again, but also knowing that it's worth it because we are, as humans, are hardwired for a connection with other humans. We are not meant to be solitary creatures. And we will perish if we are left all on our lonesome. So we don't want that. So we eventually let people in. But now you do that with the knowledge that you've done so much of your own healing work. So you know you a lot better. You know what you want to do differently in relationships next time. And and this is super helpful knowledge to have in your back pocket, hey, I went through that big, massive hurt of that breakup, that divorce, that separation, and I came through it. I healed. Did it suck? Yeah, it might have done. Do I want to do that again? Absolutely not. No, thank you. That was awful. I don't want to do it again. But also, did it kill me? It didn't. Do I think I can do things differently next time? Learn some lessons. We'll do things differently. Can start, address things when they're smaller instead of waiting until they get like this. There's so much other stuff that you can do. And yeah, you might get hurt again. You're probably going to get hurt again if you go out there dating. Let's be honest. Most people don't end up in a long-term thing with the first person they date again. And you can handle it. But all of this comes with time. It comes with not rushing it. There is no normal time for when it's okay to start dating again. It's to do with your stuff. Some people can do all that. Some people can do a lot of that inner work while they're actually still in the marriage because they might have seen it coming and been doing all that, and they might be able to move on to the next relationship quicker. Other people might not start that until after the divorce. Other people might not start that until years afterwards. There's no defined timeline for any of this. But really, at some point, you do that inner work, you heal that heart, you heal all the wounds. Not all the wounds, the healing's never done. I'm really sorry to break it to you, but it's never done. But you do a lot of the healing work, and you open up and you go it again, because that's what life is all about, is experiencing it, is going for that joyful exploration and adventure and connecting with other humans and living the life that feels really, really good. But to do that, you've got to be able to open up your heart and be vulnerable. And you just keep going and going and going. Welcome to life. So, I hope that was helpful. I didn't think I had much to say today, and then I just talked a lot, didn't I? That happens sometimes. Quite a lot, in fact. So if that was helpful, please let me know. I would love to hear what comes up for you. And you can leave a comment, send me an email, hello@lindseyhallcoaches.com. I would love to hear about what challenges you have with boundaries. Where do you struggle with them? Where do you need some, but you're not quite sure what to do, how to set the boundary? You're not sure how to communicate it or whether you can maintain it. Or maybe tell me about some that you have set and it's been like, oh my gosh, that was so hard. Or, oh my gosh, that was so helpful. Talk to me about your boundary stuff. Please, I'm so here for boundary stuff. And equally, I am so here for dating after divorce and healing from divorce and all the divorce mess. If you're new here, I got divorced about 3, coming up on 4 years ago. I split up with my ex-husband. So I've been through this all firsthand. It's still relatively recent, but also not so recent that it's still in the raw. I've done all the stuff I've just talked about. Still doing it sometimes. It's like I said, it's an ongoing thing, but been there, done that, know how to walk through all of it. So any of the divorce stuff and getting into dating again, here for that. Send me your experiences, your questions, and if you want to go dive into it, we can do one-to-one coaching. Did you know I do one-to-one coaching? So Elevate is my one-to-one coaching package. It's 3 months long. We get 3 video calls a month, and you get Boxer, which is voice note texting access Monday through Friday. So you basically get coaching every day of the week, every weekday for 3 months, as well as our 3 video calls a month. And you get all of that for $888 a month. And that's called Elevate. That is my Elevate package. I do have a smaller coaching package available as well, so you can check out my website, lindseyhallcoaches.com. But this is for the woman who wants to dive into this and do the active healing work, who's like, yeah, I'm scared as hell, and I think it might suck a little bit, and it might be hard, and it might hurt, and I want to do it because I know it's going to be worth it. Yes, it is going to be worth it. Let's do that healing work, and I can absolutely help you walk through that and support you along the way and be part of that healing journey. And I absolutely assure you that doing this kind of healing work radiates out into all parts of your life. Yes, it can help things with an ex / co-parent. It can help things with a new partner. It can help things at your work, and with your leadership abilities, like with your family relationships, all the things. It all gets better when you go back in. It all starts in here. And that's what my one-to-one coaching package is for. So if you're interested in that, you can check out my website, or better yet, just send me a message. And even better yet beyond that, okay, actually that might be the best, but also there's a link in my bio that you can book a introductory call with me, a free introductory call. We can get on a video call, half an hour, chat about whether, like, what it is that you want coaching about, whether we're a good fit, and we can go from there. So you can just book that straight away if you want, or like I said, send me a message and we can chat about it. But I would love to talk to you about how we can start doing the inner work and how I can support you in that, because my goodness, is it life-changing? Absolutely. So let's elevate your life. Let's do it together. Okay, that's it. I am not going to be here next week. Next week is half term. My kids are off school all week, and I can't do this conversation with a 3-year-old and 6-year-old running around. So I will be doing mom stuff, kids stuff all week long. I don't even know what that's going to look like yet. So no tea break chat next week, but I will be back the following week, which I believe is the 1st of November, I think is Wednesday the following week. So I'll be back on then. You can send me your questions and everything then, or you can email me now. That's cool too. I take questions in advance. Anyway, have a wonderful time. If you've got half term coming up, good luck. We can get through this together, and we will chat soon. Mwah. Bye.